I'm lucky enough to have won the genetic lottery of being someone who views the world through an optimistic lens. And I think that's what allows me to fight the fights that I do, because otherwise I think I would have beaten down a long time ago. I mean, the only way that, as you know, you could survive in the cesspool of academia, saying the things that I say, is first of all to be, as you said, happy and optimistic, but also to be. So I talk about in chapter 8 of the book, I talk about, activating your inner honey badger. The honey badger is an incredibly ferocious animal, as you know, Joe. So he could withstand the approach of 8 adult lions. The honey badger is the size of, a small dog. How could it be that lions are intimidated by the honey badger? Well, because he's ferocious. And so while I may have a happy disposition, as you know, if you've seen me in some of my battles in social media, I'm also an intellectual honey badger.
I've had a lot of academics on the show, and I applaud them. I'm happy that they're willing to do that. But I do understand that the environment of academia, it's kind of a thought bubble, right? Like they're all echoing sort of the same ideas and reinforcing those ideas within each other. And, but in their defense, this is how it's been forever. I mean, social media and alternative media like podcasts and YouTube, we're talking a decade or two. I mean, it's not that much time. I mean, this podcast is 11 years old. That's nothing.
But doesn't it suck that I always analogize academics to Navy SEALs, right? When we choose Navy SEALs, we're picking people who hopefully have athleticism, have great courage, bravery. So shouldn't we be picking similar traits in our intellectuals? But we're not, right? So we don't create intellectual SEALs who are willing to go in uncharted intellectual territories. Rather, we create, tepid, sheepish academics who stay in their lanes, who never rock the boat. And as you and I know, the world is shaped by people who are unorthodox, right? Whether it be Sigmund Freud telling us about the unconscious mind, or Charles Darwin developing his theory of natural selection, or Galileo, or Socrates. The world is shaped by those who weren't fence sitters, right? You became who you are with your podcast because you decided to step out of the bubble and create something that no one else had created before, a 3-hour intimate conversation with incredible guests. So I always tell people, yes, you could play it safe, but no one will remember you. If you take risks, the great rewards will befall you.
This is one of the weirdest things about our current climate, is that instead of engaging with people on these ideas and discussing them, they look to discredit, and they look to discredit with these disingenuous labels. And it's very unfortunate, and it's an anti-intellectual approach.
Oh, it's unbelievable, because you know why? Because so there is something in psychology called a fast and frugal heuristic. So most of us, when we're making a decision, don't necessarily sit and weigh all the pros and cons of a multi-attribute choice that we're making. Rather, we want to use some simplifying decision rule to arrive at a choice. Well, to label your debate opponent one of these names, in a sense, is a ugly manifestation of a fast and frugal heuristic, right? Because it takes very little cognitive effort for me to deploy it, right? I don't have to really engage the merits of your point. You're a Nazi, shut up, we're done. And as you said, it is the height of anti-intellectualism. And by the way, even academics engage in this form of anti-intellectualism. And that's what upsets me the most, that they should know better, and yet they succumb to the same kind of fascist strategies.
Well, there's a spectrum of intellectuals as well, right? And some of them are simple-minded in many ways. I mean, although they're intelligent and although they're well-read and they're scholars, they still, I hate to use the word, but they're lazy. They don't want to engage in this intellectual gladiatorial combat about their ideas. And that's what it is.
So certainly that. And I would also say that academia has regrettably created if you like, the reward mechanisms for hyper specialization, right? So when you're thinking about becoming an academic, a scientist, you really can sort of follow one of two strategies. You can become a unbelievable expert in a very, very narrow area, because that creates economies of scale, right? I don't have to continuously go back and check the literature because I really know everything there is to know about this very, very small area of expertise. Or you could be a polymath, you could be a broad thinker. And regrettably, much of academia promotes the former rather than the latter. It's an openness of spirit, of mind. I'm willing to go to any intellectual landscape as long as it triggers my interest. I don't play by the rules. I like to be free.
Well, it's part of being a curious human being, isn't it? And
exactly.
Well, shouldn't that be encouraged? I mean, it seems like when a person is as intelligent as yourself chooses to take your mind and apply it to other different disciplines and different ideas, that should be rewarded. And I'm glad there's someone like you out there that describes these things in a very clear way and explains the mechanisms behind them. But does it frustrate you that we are moving, it seems like, even further in this direction as a society? And do you see a way out of this?
I think the way out of it is, and I'm not sure that what I'm about to say is easy to implement because we are tribal animals. So look, I always tell people belong to the tribe of truth rather than to specific political tribes. Now, what do I mean by that? If you come to me and ask me, it's hard to pin you, Gad. Are you conservative? Are you libertarian? Are you liberal? And I will usually answer, well, it's hard to pin myself because I am an issues guy. So if it comes to the death penalty, I might give you a position that you might think I'm conservative. Or when it comes to immigration, you might think I'm conservative. When it comes to social issues, gay rights, transgender rights, I'm about as socially liberal as they come. So I don't belong to a group. I'm not conservative. I'm not liberal. I am a one idea at a time guy. Why? Because I use first principles and my ability to engage in critical thinking to espouse a position on any topic that you wish to discuss with me. But I don't think that that's the natural state of most people. Most people are, I am Republican, I am, whatever, Democrat, and therefore I must toe the line on issues 1 through 37. And so what I implore people to do is don't be that like that, even though it's a natural reflex to want to belong to Team Blue or Team Red, belong to Team Truth if you can achieve that possibility.
Yeah, in the United States, at least, I'm not really that familiar with your political system in Canada, but in the United States, it's reinforced because we really only have two parties. And so much so that Brett Weinstein created this thing, Unity 2020, where he was trying to bring together conservatives and liberals together and find some common ground. And he was promoting this as an alternative to the two-party system, and they were banned from Twitter. Banned from Twitter. They banned his personal Facebook page and then tried to say that it was an error. But it was a conscious decision.
Do you think that there will be eventually a regulatory mechanism that kind of sets all of these social platforms straight? Or do you think forevermore we're going to be beholden to their BS?
I think it's the only way out of this. I think someone has to step in and they have to impose First Amendment some protections on free speech on the internet. Right now, the internet, these social media platforms they're thought of as private companies. They can make their own decision. Like maybe if you had, a party over at your house and someone came over your house and they started saying a bunch of really offensive things, you can kick them out of your house. But that's your own house. It's a private house. But when your house is the world, and you get to decide what's offensive and what's not, and other people disagree. The problem is, but you're stifling free speech, and you're stifling the ability for people to make up their own mind as to what is and what isn't offensive, what's correct and what's incorrect. And it's been said a million times. I've said it a million times. But the answer to bad speech is not censorship. It's better speech. It's more accurate speech. It's like you have to win the battle of ideas. and much like a lot of these intellectuals that you were talking about that want to silence alternative perspectives on campus, you see the same thing on social media. People that have these ideological perspectives where they've steadfast adhered to this left-wing agenda, they don't want to engage with anyone that has a disparaging opinion or a differing opinion. They don't want to. They just want to kick those people off, deplatform them, and they yell it out because it's been effective with people in the past. They've gotten rid of people like Milo. They've gotten rid of Gavin McInnes and Alex Jones and a lot of these people. They've canceled their voice, but I think by doing so, they've done themselves a disservice, whether they recognize it or not. They've done discourse a disservice. They've done free speech a disservice. And they've created this tyranny of information where they've decided that they're the ones who get to decide what gets disseminated and what doesn't. I think it's very dangerous. But now with the tools that we have available, the fact that they don't use those tools during a presidential debate, fact check Trump. When he lies about something, pull it up. Show that he's not telling the truth. Show what he actually said. Show what he actually did as opposed to what he said he's doing. Call him out on it. Call Biden out on it. Let's get to the bottom of this. But, even though those tools are available, mainstream media would have to give away control. They would give away control of their ability to navigate and steer this narrative, right? The narrative that they're trying to steer, the bias that they're trying to exert on our election process is really offensive. It should be offensive to people. It should be offensive that they have the ability to Google whether or not Joe Biden really did say he would never ban fracking, and they didn't. Why would you not pull up a video that's readily available online and say, sir, we're going to pause here for a moment. We're going to play this video and tell me what you meant when you said you were going to ban fracking. Tell me what you meant when you said you were going to embrace the Green New Deal. Tell me what you said when you said that you were going to do whatever the fuck you lied about, and pull it up.